This is cultivated by Destiny, and I am here in my 9B zone suburban front yard. We are going to refresh it today. We have a bunch of weeds everywhere. I have a dead laurel petalum that I need to replace that is not coming back. And I'd like to replace these foxtails with something a little bit more my style. So what I'm doing right now is I'm wetting everything down because it's way easier to pull the root out of the weeds if you water them down first. They come out a lot easier. These foxtail ferns survived 2 Florida winters, but today I'm taking them out anyway. Now don't get me wrong, they're not dead and they're not bad plants, but after 2 winters of watching them get knocked back by cold weather and spending most of the spring waiting for them to recover, I've decided it's time for a change. Today I'm replacing them with Sunshine Ligustrum and giving this front yard a whole new look here in my Central Florida Zone 9B landscape. This past winter was a little colder than average for our area. In fact, we even saw snow flurries here this year, which is something you don't see very often in Central Florida. One thing many people don't realize is that my area tends to get a bit colder than some of the surrounding communities. Because of our location and elevation, we're often a few degrees cooler on winter nights, which can surprisingly make a difference when it comes to plant performance. While many tropical and subtropical plants bounced back once warmer weather returned, some struggled more than others. In my case, that was the foxtail ferns. For years, this landscape island featured purple laurel petalum paired with bright green foxtail ferns. I love the contrast and the tropical feel they brought to the space. While foxtail ferns can certainly grow in Zone 9B, I found they perform more like a true year-round landscape plant in warmer areas where winter damage is less common. In my yard, they survive just fine and look great by June, but I spend most of the spring waiting for them to recover. I'd rather fill this space with plants that provide color and structure almost year-round instead of spending months waiting for them to bounce back after winter. That's what led me to the Sunshine Ligustrum. The deep purple foliage of the laurel petalum paired with the bright golden yellow foliage of the Sunshine Ligustrum creates a bold contrast that's hard to miss from the street. I've also noticed the Sunshine Ligustrum thriving throughout my neighborhood and coming through winter with very little damage, which gave me confidence it would be a better fit for this space. So today I'm replacing the foxtail ferns with Sunshine Ligustrum to create a cleaner, lower maintenance landscape that still provides year-round color and curb appeal. But first, we needed to pick up the new plants, so we headed to the nursery to find the Sunshine Ligustrum. Our son seemed to enjoy riding around in the nursery's wagon more than looking at the plants, and honestly, that's part of the fun. After picking out the shrubs, we loaded them up, headed home, and got ready to get started. Before I began weeding, I gave the entire bed a thorough watering. If you've ever tried to pull weeds out of the dry Florida soil, you know how difficult it can be. Watering beforehand helps loosen the soil and makes it much easier to pull the roots out instead of leaving pieces behind that quickly regrows. Once the soil had a chance to soak up some water, I started removing the grass and weeds that had worked their way into the landscape bed. Thankfully, I had a little helper with me. Riley was busy picking up leaves and helping clean up the bed while I worked. With the bed cleaned up, it was finally time to remove the foxtail ferns. My neighbor had mentioned before how much he liked them, and I would never just throw them away, so it only felt right to pass them along and give them a new home. He has 2 large shade trees in the backyard that create a protected microclimate, helping moderate both summer heat and winter cold. Once the foxtails were removed, I continued cleaning up the bed and pulling out pieces of the old landscape fabric underneath. And by the way, if I could give one landscaping tip, it would be to avoid landscape fabric. What starts out looking clean often becomes a headache later as weeds grow on top of it, roots become tangled in it, and the fabric begins to break down. Personally, I prefer using cardboard as a weed barrier. It suppresses weeds in the short term while eventually breaking down and contributing organic matter back into the soil. Next, I dug out the planting areas and loosened the soil where the new shrubs would be installed. For the planting mix, I blended garden soil, compost, worm castings, azomite, and a nitrogen fertilizer to give the plants a strong start. After adding some of the mix to each planting hole, I installed the Sunshine Ligustrum, backfilled around the roots, and watered everything in thoroughly. And this is how the landscape looks now. For mulch, we ended up using some leftover rubber mulch that had been sitting in our shed from the original project. When we originally landscaped the front yard, rubber mulch wasn't my first choice, but this was largely Colby's project. He designed it, built it, and did most of the work, so I trusted his vision. Rubber mulch is made from recycled tires that would otherwise end up in a landfill, and while it isn't my preferred mulch from a soil health perspective, it has performed surprisingly well. Even after several years, it has required very little maintenance, stayed in place, and retained its color far better than many natural or dyed mulches. Natural mulches still get my vote when it comes to building soil, supporting beneficial organisms, regulating soil temperatures, and adding organic matter. Those are the benefits rubber mulch simply cannot provide. But because we already had this material available and had seen how durable it was over the last few years, it felt like a reasonable choice to continue using it for this project. In the end, we were able to repurpose the material we already had, avoid unnecessary waste, and still achieve the clean, finished look we wanted for the front yard. I think the new Sunshine Ligustrum paired with the purple Laurel Petalum gives the space a cleaner, more polished look while providing year-round color and contrast. Comment below and let me know what you think of the transformation. Would you have kept the foxtail ferns or made the switch? And where do you stand on rubber mulch? Thanks for watching. This is Cultivated by Destiny, where I'm cultivating a life rooted in nature, beauty, and purpose. I'll see you in the next one.